ride with me to the other clans and we will defeat the sky people.
You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.
Hello, and welcome out there in podcast and YouTube land. You have reached Johnny Has the Keys, a podcast and YouTube channel where we explore genre horror and genre science fiction movies, television, sometimes literature, and a wide variety of topics. We talk about key influences on that particular subject matter and the things that they in turn have influenced. If you're new to us, great. We're glad you're here. Welcome. We're glad to have you. We'd love to know how you found us. If you could just take a second to put in that review. Hey, our comment section down there. Hey, this is how I found you guys. We would love to know that. And also, if you're on the YouTube, of course, subscribe, ring the bell, do all those things that help us keep going and doing this. And we'd really appreciate if you just take a second to go to iTunes and give us a review there, because any rating and review there helps us reach more people. If you are returning and you haven't done those things that I just listed, go do those right now. But please, we're glad you're back and hope you enjoy us. You can find us, of course, on johnnyhasthekeys.com, where you can find all of our past episodes too. So you can just scroll through and find movies or even television series that you like and follow us. My name is David. I am here with my great friend and co-host, Tim. Tim, how have you been this genre week?
Hello, David. I am well, and I have actually been spreading myself thin in multiple mediums of the genre. So I have a good and a bad this week. You're getting two. You know, as we always do, we give you more than what you asked for.
We give you more.
We're the bacon on the sandwich.
We're the bacon on the sandwich. The t-shirts are coming, folks.
The t-shirts are coming. Well, first I'm going to give you the bad because I don't want to talk about it for very long. But I mentioned to you not too long ago in another show about an extended version of The Thing that had been released, or actually an extended version of Who Goes There, the story by John Campbell, called Frozen Hell. And another guy that he may have had something to do with it. He went ahead and published an anthology of stories called Short Things.
Okay.
And this is an anthology of short stories based on the world of Who Goes There, not The Thing. So at first, when I was reading it, I was a little confused because Norris is still alive and a character. Of course, McCready's there. They survived, but Blair is dead. And so when they talk about people that are dead or alive, it's different than what happened in the movie. I'm halfway through this book, and I'm probably not going to finish it. I don't like any of the stories.
Ooh.
It bums me out. I mean, I was like, you could really go far with this, and they're all so restrained. Some of them aren't even scary. One of them is a story about McCready going to visit Norris in Hawaii and meeting a Hawaiian girl that Norris sets him up with, and they're going to get married and Pearl Harbor happens. And that's it. And I'm like, what? What is this story? This is not about a monster from outer space.
Yeah, you need Joe Lonsdale or Poppy Zebright or somebody like that writing these stories.
Well, and I mean, there are some decent writers in here. Alan Dean Foster's in here. Chelsea Quinn Yarborough's in here. Kristen Catherine Rush is in here. And I'm just not impressed. I'm not impressed at all.
When I think horror, especially semi-Lovecraftian horror, Alan Dean Foster doesn't jump to mind.
No,
I'm sorry.
No.
You know,
I
mean, you want that kind of. I mean, Joe Lonsdale comes to mind first, just because that genre bending kind of cool stuff that he used to write.
Lansdale would do it funny and make it gross and scary too. Yes, you're right. He would. But this has got Kevin J. Anderson in it. He did like the X-Files novelizations and stuff.
No,
you would think it would be great, but not so much. So sorry, guys, but I don't think I'm going to finish this book. I went on to something much better.
Yes.
Last night, I watched The Invisible Man 2020.
Oh, okay. On my list and really want to watch it.
Wow. I was so impressed with this movie and had so much fun watching this movie.
How could you not be with her? She is always incredible.
She is. That's the absolute truth. Elizabeth Moss is probably one of the greatest actresses of this generation.
Definitely.
And she literally carries this movie because most of the time it's her alone.
Well, and that's the thing with Handmaid's Tale. She's, it's primarily her, and she can tell more in one close-up. She can tell an entire monologue without any dialogue, just in close-up.
Yeah.
Well, she's amazing.
Yeah, well, it's an amazing movie. It's very nostalgic for me because it's almost like, they're rebooting a series of a Universal monster that we've already covered on the podcast that we love. It's directed and written by a guy that I am probably going to start stalking like we do Mike Flanagan.
Right.
All right. His name is Lee Whannell. He is Australian. He is predominantly an actor, but he writes, produces, and directs too.
Good.
He was in the movie Saw. He wrote the movie Saw, so he's buds with James Wan, and I guess that's where he probably started getting his momentum as a power player, so to speak.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and he does a phenomenal job with this movie. I was so impressed. And I want to say it's his first feature film he directed. However, I thought you might like to know that, well, first of all, he also did a movie called Upgrade that we have mentioned. You specifically mentioned when you were talking about Apartment 17.
He did the series?
He is working on the series now. Is it out? I don't think it's out.
I thought no.
But he did the movie.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
All right. There's a movie and there's a series, and he's involved with both. So it gets 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I was like, I'm putting this on our list, and it's your homework to watch it because it is science fiction.
Oh yeah. And is it considered Dark Universe part of this whole Marvel, Universal monster reboot kind of thing they're talking about?
I read up a lot on it. A lot of people say the Dark Universe thing was shelved because after Tom Cruise's Mummy movie just basically destroyed it.
Sucked so bad.
But Universal, as you know, and I was telling Dennis this last night, Universal, as you know, has always held a tight grip on these monster projects. They do not let anybody touch them. But I have since found out that Blumhouse has access and is in pre-production on 2 more. They won't say which ones. It's rumored that one's a Wolfman, but they won't say. So Blumhouse says that, even though Universal has got their grip on this Dark Universe, Avengers type production,
right?
These are considered right now separate entities. Okay. So they're just like separate reboots. And honestly, if they're anywhere near as good as The Invisible Man, I'm thrilled to see them.
Was Invisible Man Blumhouse?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. All right. Because normally he does the schlocky ones. He does the Saw type, like he has one, The Island or whatever, which is all the people. It's like a dark, twisted version. Saw meets Fantasy Island, kind of thing. And he's got another Blumhouse one that I saw that was all like, it was just weird. I
think they're hit and miss. I mean, they're also doing that movie They Them that that Kevin Bacon's in. Kevin Bacon, which looks like Friday the 13th. I haven't seen it, but anyway, I was gonna. So anyway, Blumhouse is loosely connected to these Universal monster movies that are coming out, and they're also hopefully connected to this Whannell guy. But Whannell is busy already on some other stuff because he is doing the television series of his movie Upgrade. But guess what other 2 movies he has in pre-production right now? The Green Hornet, which is unique. I mean, I did not know they were ever going to bring him back, but it looks like there's going to be another Escape from New York, and he's attached. Really? So I'm guessing it's a reboot or a remake.
It would have to be.
Yeah, that's what
it would have to be. Yeah. So interesting. We'll have to do an episode just trying to guess who would be Snake Plissken. Who would you cast now as Snake Plissken?
Tom Hardy.
Oh, he might be too dark though, but he would definitely be dark. What's his name? Quill might be interesting to see.
Well, if you would look a little closer at the picture behind me, do you see who the Invisible Man is?
No, I do not. I mean, anything I've ever seen, he's been invisible in the trailers.
Well, there's a picture of him there that's not invisible, and it's Oliver Jackson Cohen from Hill House. And from Bly Manor.
Oh, wow. Ooh, he's so good.
Yeah.
Gosh. Does he keep his original accent in this, or is he American?
He is in like one scene because he's invisible.
Well, true. Yeah, he's invisible. Yeah.
But I mean, they were gonna get, one of them was the Alexander Skarsgård.
Yeah.
And someone else they wanted. But I imagine they looked at the script and said, I have no lines. I'm not doing this. Well, he didn't do that. He said, I'll do it. Sure. And I'm glad because I like him a lot.
I have wanted to see this movie for years. So that's great. That's good.
Well, watch it. I actually had to watch it on Peacock with commercials, but I was like, I don't care. I just watched it.
Well, I had, for my genre week, I had the pleasure, I guess would be the way of saying it. Anyway, it was on my list, has been on my list, and you keep chiding me about it. So I sat down the other day and spent the entire day and watched the Book of Boba Fett because I had not seen it.
Can't wait.
So I watched the entire thing and had some mixed feelings about it, but overall, Jesus Christ, why do they not just give, as we have said, just let Jon Favreau do what he wants to do, whatever it is. It turned out he had written all but one of these. Wait, go back. No, he actually wrote all 7 episodes. So, and he directed a few. Bryce Dallas Howard, of course, directed one, and Dave Filoni directed one. But
does it not bother you that it's basically just Mandalorian season 3?
Yeah, that's where I have the issue.
I have major issues with that.
The first episode I really liked, and I thought it was very interesting the way they told in that kind of semi-flashback, story arc kind of thing, because him in the back to tub, and then he's remembering what happened to him, but now he's also taken over for Bib Fortuna and all that. So I thought, okay, that's kind of cool. And he's remembering. Yeah, he's remembering, what it was like to when he was in the Sarlacc pit and all of that. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly in episode 4, we suddenly turned it into the Mandalorian. And
exactly.
Was this necessary?
No, it was not
to do this.
And that's why it makes me mad, and I'm not a fan of the series. I thought that half of the first half of that season is great, and the second half, I'm like, this pisses me off. Baby Yoda's back, the Mandalorian's back. This is not their story.
Yeah. Now, not that I don't like. Not that I dislike Mando. I think he's great. Given he's got his own show, let him stay over there. This seemed like a crossover episode that I thought, oh, okay, so all right, they just need to do the marketing thing. I understand. So all right, it's only this one episode, and we're going to do
That's
this.
What I thought.
And then suddenly, no, he's into the very freaking end of the season. And I went, no.
And it's like a placeholder. It's like they went, hey, you know what? Mandalorian's coming back, and we'll go ahead and tell you. So is Baby Yoda.
Right.
I'm like,
yeah.
I was so happy when they got rid of him at the end of season 2 of Mandalorian. And now we already know he's coming back.
I know. Yeah. Okay. So like I said, I have mixed feelings about it because I do think production design is phenomenal all the way through. I do think that they Disneyized it, meaning either they didn't trust the story enough and said, you have to put Mandalorian in it, or you have to put Baby Yoda in, or whatever. But even then, he still could have gotten away with that just once and not done it the rest of the time. It got self-indulgent in places. The whole, I've got a new ship, so I'm going to fly through the the canyons the same way that Anakin did with the speeder bike, and I was going, okay, that's too much fan pandering to me. I just don't like it. I love the engineer lady girl. I thought they used her well.
That's Amy Sedaris. I love her. Yeah,
she was the highlight of the last like 3 episodes. I went, okay, she's the only thing I'm liking anymore about this.
Yeah,
because even Boba's
one of my favorite writers. I love him and her.
Yeah, even Boba and Fennec Shand aren't doing anything. It's kind of like they just said, oh, okay, the big guy's here, I'll let him take over. I didn't like that. I didn't. How
about the Tuscan episode?
I liked the whole Tuscan stuff.
Yeah,
that's great.
That's the heart of the story. I was like, why aren't you using more of this?
And I was going to do that. I mean, you even had a quote train robbery. It's what we said we liked about Mandalorian, which is, these Western motifs done in the Star Wars galaxy, which is great and, works for me. So keep doing it. I don't need Mando to come to the rescue with Baby Yoda. I really didn't need that. And then it just started making no sense too. The last 2 episodes were like, okay, so these things are scorpion bots with shields and you keep shooting at it. Why? You're shooting at it for a good 30 freaking minutes. It's not going to work. I mean, it's not going to work. So why are you? I don't understand. I just don't. It's not even like you're, knocking it back or draining its shields in any way. Nothing's happening. So didn't like that. I didn't like the. I did like the whole political intrigue, and I would have loved more of that. It felt like I was watching The Godfather. With him sitting there at the table and he's got all the other factions there and they're all kind of one-upping each other. And finally he says, okay, I'll do it on my own. The only thing I ask is that you guys stay out of it. You just give me your word, you'll stay out of it. And naturally they double-crossed him, which we're expecting. And I wanted more of that. But there's no vengeance on those guys except in one scene at the very end where Fennec Shand comes in and kills them all. And I went, not enough of. Yeah, they lost. It's like they lost track halfway through.
No, and the characters that Ming-Hua, is that her name? Ming-Hua?
Yeah, she plays Fennec Shand.
Yeah,
who's
her character and Boba Fett's character and isn't the sheriff in it as well?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to get the series confused, but those 3, I mean, that to me right there is your story. Bringing the Mandalorian in and Yoda in. I mean, I actually have this subdued, submerged animosity now for Dallas Bryce Howard because I feel like the series started getting bad when she came in.
I think she's one of their better directors.
Well, it's not her fault. She just directed the script they gave her.
Correct. And it was a Jon Favreau script, but it was very pandering. And even though I love the design and I thought he was shot well, done well and everything, the gunslinger character, Bane, I think.
He looks like Lee Van Cleef in Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Right. I love the
version.
voice. I love the design of him. I like, he kept his hat down and then did the raise up and all. All that was great. But and again, I said it when we were talking about Stranger Things. I'm sorry, these people, and that's why I'm going to stand on my soapbox and say, get out of my yard when it comes to the multiverse, because if you can bring people back, then there's no remorse of them dying in the first place.
Right.
So, somebody was saying, oh, hopefully they'll reboot Black Widow. No, she's dead. Leave her dead. It's fine. That's great. Loved it. They kill the sheriff and make this big deal that he shot our sheriff in cold blood. So that rallied the whole town. And now we come in the last minute as your cavalry kind of rescue, yada, yada. And then the very last scene is him in the back of the tank being revived.
Right. And it's Timothy Oliphant. It's like they want to keep that actor around.
Right. We want to keep that actor and character. So we're going to do that. And I was like, no, you just don't. It's like you got to learn, kill your darlings and let them die. But anyway, so I did catch up on Boba Fett. It was a hit and miss. And now I've got to do Obi-Wan and see, hopefully it won't derail like this one did halfway through. But I think it will, because they're going to pander to Vader at the end of it, and Anakin's going to come back, and I hate frickin' Hayden Christensen. So get off my lawn. Get out of my galaxy.
I'll reserve my comments until you've watched it.
Oh, see now. Oh no.
It was hard for me to reserve them with Boba though, because the show starts off so god dang great, and then all of a sudden it's like, we don't need the Mandalorian. Stop.
Yeah, get him out. Get him out. You know, although I have heard that Ewan McGregor said that the scenes with Vader in Obi-Wan the series are very scary, and actually scared him. So I thought, okay, scary might work. Darth Vader should be scary. But
Yeah,
we'll
the
see.
only problem is we know the outcome of the story.
Duh.
So why be scared when they're having a lightsaber battle?
Right.
You know,
not like he's gonna
it's not like
either
he's
one
gonna
of
die.
neither one of them are.
No.
Because
Nope.
yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of and it's very. I mean, Star Wars does this. You know, I don't want to get into this because we've been talking too long. But Star Wars is very known for, you know, improbable escapes. And there's several of those in Obi-Wan with Vader, you know, because Vader, it's hard to make Vader the menace of the universe when he's so easily foiled, like a Batman episode.
Right. Shut down all the garbage smashers on the detention level. Yeah. You can get out of anything in Star Wars. So yeah, there's that.
Well, speaking of classic stories.
And scary. I said scary.
And
so,
very scary.
Yeah.
Our topic today, everyone out there in radio and YouTube land are like, finally, they're going to talk about the subject. We're here today to discuss a little movie that was made before either one of us was born, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, and before you get into it, I wanted to announce this is our Oktoberfest. This is October Horror Fest. We're beginning all of the month of October is horror movies.
Is it?
Well, we got
no.
Well, yeah, we've got one that's pseudo sci-fi, but it's still a scary, very horror sci-fi.
Did I really do that? I don't remember doing that.
Well, we've got this week's.
Oh,
next
no,
week.
you're right. They are all scary, even the science fiction ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for you horror fans out there, here you go. It's coming at you this month on Johnny Has the Keys. So,
and we're going to start with a really classy one.
Yep.
Directed by Jack Clayton in 1961. This is a movie called The Innocents. The title alone is a little misleading, wouldn't you say? You're expecting something light and fluffy when you say The Innocents, like the age of innocence. Instead, we get a pretty scary ghost story.
Yeah, I did think that it was. I think it's appropriate though because of the subtext.
Yeah,
because
of
we've got to be suspicious. I think so. I think that's why. Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, The Innocents is one of a gazillion that I'll talk about later, adaptations of Turn of the Screw by Henry James.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what? I've got the poster right there. It is basically about a governess that goes to an estate in England to look after a wealthy man's children. And as she is there, their new caretaker, she discovers that the prior caretaker is no longer around. She's dead. And that there was an affair she had conducted with a rather ominous man named Peter Quint. And basically, these people are dead and haunting and quite likely possessing the children. And it's another small story with a small cast, the kind I like the best. Do you remember ever having seen this in this form, not in other forms, obviously?
No, I had never seen this movie.
Oh, so what did you think?
I loved it. I thought it was brilliantly done adaptation because I do like the novella and I've always liked it. I have a good attachment to this story and this style. I like Gothic Ghost. It's one of my favorite kind of subgenres, I guess you would call it, maybe. I like the fact that it's so well played here and so faithful to the novel. But it also reminded me of other adaptations, of course, because we've all seen probably a dozen adaptations of these stories. And to have such a great cast play it, even the kids in this are very good and strong. Clayton's direction, I think, is very strong. The lighting is probably one of my favorite elements of it.
Well, the pedigree on this movie is off the charts, really, when you consider it. I mean, it was directed by Jack Clayton, who's not known for doing major movies, but he's known for doing very memorable movies that people respect. In my notes, I have he did The Great Gatsby and Something Wicked This Way Comes are two examples.
Yeah, and Something Wicked is one of my favorites too. Another good, in my opinion, pretty faithful adaptation of Bradbury, and I like the way it's directed as well. But Freddie Francis is the ruling creative, in my opinion, of this movie.
It's very beautifully shot, and he was the cinematographer.
Yeah, who also did Dune and French Lieutenant's Woman, where he got an Oscar for. He did Elephant Man for David Lynch.
Well, not to mention a half a dozen Hammer horror movies that we love.
Yep.
So, I mean, Freddie Francis that was a score getting him to do cinematography on this film, as far as I'm concerned.
He's brilliant. He's brilliant in this. Yeah.
But
I loved it. I got scared in places that I was supposed to get scared. I thought it was very, I group it with like some of the remakes. So, Legend of Hell House, the Roddy McDowall one, the other Hill House one, and you kind of look at it and go, why didn't they just watch this? And this is how you do it. This is the way it was done.
Well, I'm not sure if you're familiar. We've already covered The Haunting, which was the Robert Wise adaptation of Shirley Jackson's novel, The Haunting of Hill House.
Right.
And now we're doing this, which is the Clayton adaptation of the Henry James novel. But there is another movie that came out in the 40s. I can't remember the exact year, with Ray Milland, called The Uninvited.
Okay.
The Uninvited, this movie, and The Haunting are considered like the triumvirate of haunted house movies. They're considered the three best haunted house movies ever made.
Okay. And
this one is always lifted a notch above the other two.
We're not counting Netflix series, right?
We're not.
Okay.
Because you know how I feel about those, and I'm sure we'll talk about them later.
Yeah.
Back to the production, though, I was talking about an all-star crew. I mean, the reason this movie is what it is and where we get these aspects of the story is it's based on William. Is it William Archibald? I think it's William.
Yeah.
His adaptation of a Broadway version of the James novel.
Yes.
In collaboration with Truman Capote, another one of my favorite writers.
Yeah.
And there is so much. I mean, honestly, I could see this being Truman Capote's movie just set in the South. If it was set in the South, it would be like, oh, yeah, Truman Capote wrote this.
Yeah.
But what they did was they brought another guy in at the very end, Harold Pinter, who came in and Victorianized it and made it more English.
Pinter is known for his language. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you've got three powerhouse writers on the script, too. Not to mention it's adapted from Henry James. So we've talked about directors, writers, cinematographers, and then, of course, you've got Deborah Kerr as the lead. And she's phenomenal. I mean, I don't know her from much other than The King and I.
Yep.
And I guess she was in From Here to Eternity. That was one of my mother's favorite movies, I think. But she's phenomenal in this movie, too. So this movie's got a lot going for it.
It does. It has I loved it from the very beginning. I mean, the opening credit sequence with just the hands praying and everything, and then hearing her voiceover and the music and everything worked. There were a couple of stings in the music I thought were over the top, but other than that, I wasn't taken out at all, and it made me really want to look up the Broadway version, the play version, because this would be scary on stage, I think, if done right and cast well. It would be scary.
And I think it could easily be done on a stage.
I do too.
Yeah, which is, I'm sure, why it was on Broadway.
Yep.
All right, we talked about Freddie Francis, Henry James. One of the reasons Capote was on this movie, by the way, was he was taking a break from writing in cold blood. And I don't know if you've ever seen any of those Capote biopic films.
Oh, yeah.
But that was basically what turned him into an alcoholic. He kind of fell in love with a murderer that was on death row. And this was his little escape writing this film, which I'm glad he did it because it's a great little film.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
I mentioned The Uninvited, which was actually in 1944.
Okay.
I have not seen that. And if I have, I don't remember it. So I want to see it. What about scenes? What scenes stick out to you in this movie?
Well, this
that
movie
may be in other things you've seen.
This movie will always be known for the last scene, of course, and how powerful it is. I loved what I call the exploration scene, the scene with her in the candelabra, which parts of it are long take shots of her going through the house trying to find trying to find the sounds and everything else. That was really a good, scary sequence. Let me see. I liked the opening scene, I thought, but then again, I was comparing it to one of our favorite Netflix series and going, okay, this was good. That was, yeah. And Fiona never said perfectly splendid, which I wanted her to.
Oh, but I said it enough for her.
I did too. I was saying it all the time.
Yeah.
Watching it. But the, the opening scene when she is with the father and he's actually commissioning her, there's just a weird sort of tension between the two of them that I really liked. And you couldn't really tell. Beginning and end. So I love the ending, of course. I love the beginning and the fact that it was in black for like a minute and a half, and we're just hearing a kid's voice singing. That's always scary. Children, British children alone are scary, but British children singing in the dark, really scary. So
I was going to ask you what version you saw, because in the original Jack Clayton version, it is black for like 45 seconds.
Yeah, it goes forever. Yes.
And then there's an edited version where theaters thought it was a mistake when it went out, and they clipped and put 20th Century Fox at the beginning of it, and then it starts. And that's the version I saw, because I saw an old version that I had taped off of either, I think it was Fox Movie Channel back, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I saw the version that did not start with black. It started with 20th Century Fox.
Yeah, it was awesome. And 20th Century Fox is in black and white, of course, which works. But I really liked it. And I think you can find that version actually just on YouTube. Okay. Go to YouTube and you can get that version. Love the ending, of course. And Deborah, I guess the only other big scene I have would be the storm. I thought that was a really realistic rainstorm for that time period, and going outside in it and all in the, where the little near the pond cupola weird kind
it's like
of
a
thing
gazebo kind of thing.
Gazebo. Yeah, that was creepy. What about you? Favorite scenes?
Well, the scene where Quint looks in the window, obviously. I have it right there.
I'm talking about these heavy atmospheric scenes, and you're talking about the slow pan where he comes up to the window.
It's the scary scenes. It's the scenes that say, yes, this is a horror movie. One is his appearance in the window right there.
But what makes that scary to me is look at Miles' expression in that picture behind you. That's what scared me. It was not Quint at the window. It was Miles. Miles is not right. He's just not right all the way through this movie. Right. Yeah.
Another scene that's just like this that would remind, and this is not it in particular, but there are scenes where Flora is sitting at the water, and when you look out there, that's not just a little copse of grass growing out there. There's a woman in black standing out there. Those scenes are the scenes that stick out to me.
Miss Jessel
Miss
is
Jessel.
out there.
Yeah.
Miss Jessel is out there. Yeah.
So, and then I don't know. There's little things that they're not really scenes for cinematography that stick out to me, but like the scene that there was a lot of worry of is there's a scene where Miles kisses Miss Giddens.
Yes.
And it's a little bit more than a peck on the lips. And they were very concerned about how mainstream audiences were going to receive that. Because we know,
and the last one too.
Mm-hmm.
She kisses him,
right?
And it's like, okay, that's a dead body. Okay, all right, all right.
And but we know that he is possessed by the spirit of Peter Quint. So
is
he's
he
actually
though?
an adult?
Is he?
Well, he admits it at the end before he dies.
He just screams. I don't remember.
He says Peter Quint. She goes, say his name, and he says Peter Quint.
Well, yeah, because she's making him say his name. It's not as to
so
me.
You're saying he may be saying it to appease her.
One of the I'm going to say keys, but one of the things I really like about this adaptation is the ambiguity. They keep it very ambiguous. You do see, like you said, you see Peter Quint come into the window, but that's her point of view. And if she's really crazy, then yeah, she would see that. The same thing with Miss Jessel in the Reeds sort of thing, because when the cook shows up, she looks and they do the same shot and there's no Miss Jessel in the Reeds. And Flora doesn't act like she sees Miss Jessel in the Reeds. So I love that ambiguity that they play, even down to the quasi, I don't want to say pedophilia, but the, older woman, younger man, younger boy kind of caring more for each other than they really should, kind of thing. I loved that. I thought that was really cool about the way this translation of the novel is.
I totally agree. It's like you said, the ambiguity leaves room to question and wonder, and that's why, and it gets people talking. And we've talked about this with other movies. You don't want cut and dry all the time.
No,
it's more fun to speculate what is going on.
Yes.
So as far as other scenes, I mean, that's really the only other scenes I can think of. I mean, usually it's just scenes with her, talking to them in bed or talking to them while they play or they're riding in a carriage together or what have you.
But it's the chemistry all the way through. I mean, in a lot of movies, you'll say, oh, these two characters, and usually the leads, they have such good chemistry together. When they're doing their scenes together, there's just a feeling to it, the way they work together. I found that in every single character in this. They had she had so much chemistry with each of the kids. The kids had great chemistry with each other. She had great chemistry with what's her name, the cook or the nanny or
Mrs.
whatever,
Gross.
Mrs. Gross. They had really good chemistry together. So I really liked that and the way they played it. And I think it all has to do with Deborah Kerr. If she had been a different actress, I don't think it would have been the same.
Yeah, I agree. She makes this movie work. I mean, well, everybody makes it's an ensemble movie, not just an ensemble cast.
Yes.
But everyone is a vital piece to this movie, I think.
Agreed.
And I'm sure you read a lot of the technical aspects that Freddie did to make it look the way it did, as far as like having such bright lights that Deborah Kerr had to wear sunglasses.
Yeah. Yeah, because he wanted that contrast and everything. Yeah, which and it works. I'm a big stickler for, if you have a candelabra, I better not see a shadow. I just hate that cheap lighting when they just got a spotlight on you, following you around the set, and so you see the shadow of the lighting device, which is like not accurate. They only do that once.
The Corman School of Lighting.
Yeah, they only do that once in this entire movie. There are times when it looks like, oh, there's obviously shining a light, but there's no shadow of the candelabra. And I went, that's good work. That's really good. Again, Freddie Francis.
Freddie Francis.
He's just really good. Cast.
Well, I was going to go on to cast, but I didn't know if we wanted to talk about we'll just hold it for keys, because I was going to say we're going to have to talk about the big elephant in the room eventually.
Well, yeah, eventually.
Okay, let's move on to cast. You mentioned Deborah Kerr. She was in The King and I and From Here to Eternity. Oh, and she was in An Affair to Remember. That's the movie my mother loved. That was remade into Sleepless in Seattle. She has said on record and to regard this film as her best work and finest performance. So I thought that was kind of interesting for someone that was in 3 other really large movies. I don't have any other on her. Actually, I don't have any optional members of the cast. I don't think. No, actually, I do have one. But most of this cast was chosen and never reconsidered. So we didn't have other people considered for these roles. Peter Wingard played Peter Quint. And I mean, we really only see his face when it looks in that window and at the very end. I don't have much news on him, but as a genre key, I thought it was kind of funny. Do you know what he's been in science fiction wise?
I do not.
He was in Flash Gordon.
Well.
He played Clytus.
Flash.
Exactly. I just found that kind of funny.
Go, Flash, go. Go, Flash, go.
Mrs. Gross was played by Meg Jenkins. What's a little funny about that story is that she's only 4 years older than Deborah Kerr. They made her look older.
Good work. Yeah, it worked good. It looked good. I thought
so too. And then we mentioned this a couple episodes back in the Dead of Night episode. We had Michael Redgrave. Well, Michael Redgrave is in this movie too.
Yeah.
He is in the beginning of it. He plays the uncle that hires Mrs. Giddens or Miss Giddens to be the new governess.
Yeah. He's in one scene. He gets top billing. He's in one scene. What's up with that?
I don't know, but it adds to the whole ensemble effect.
Oh, yes, it does. And again, their chemistry was really good. There was this kind of pseudo, just the way he shot it, the way that scene works. I really liked his performance.
Exactly. Well. I mean, they play really well off each other, very similar to the version that we saw that Flanagan did with those two actors.
Very much.
Michael Redgrave was not, well, he was the one they chose to be the part, but they were offered somebody else. Do you want to know who that was? And they turned it down.
I do not know. Not in 1961.
Cary Grant.
That would have been very weird, I think.
Well, first of all, it's hard not to see him as the suave sex symbol.
Right.
Yeah, so it would have been very weird, but apparently, I don't know. I guess he was under contract to Fox, and they said you can have him if you want him, and they said, and Clayton said no, I don't want him.
Yeah, I like Michael Redgrave because he's a handsome man, but there's still that kind of pretension to him. He's not, and he's not a immediately recognizable sort of character.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
no, his name. He's like a Barrymore. He's, from a famous family of actors, but he's not, he's such a good actor that you don't recognize him in parts usually because he's known more for being an actor than a face, so to speak. The children in this movie both have strong genre ties. Do you know what they are?
I know that Miles was in Children of the Damned. Village of the Damned.
Maybe Children, but he was definitely in Village of the Damned.
Yeah. So he's used to being a creepy little kid.
A creepy little kid. He's great though. He's a really good little actor. I was going to say that Village of the Damned is on our list. Children of the Damned is the sequel, I think. So, and we'll eventually cover it, I'm sure. Yeah, we will. But yeah, and what I liked about him was the scene you had talked about. The kiss scene is her actually tucking him into bed, that sort of thing. And there's just the way he does some of his facial expressions and his translation. I mean, it's almost like he is possessed. It's almost like there's a maturity that suddenly goes into his face. And it's not a scary maturity. It's more of a, hey,
How you doing without being, cliche?
No, there is a maturity there that's I would call acting experience, or at least good acting.
Yes.
The maturity is very visible in that child. I think he's really good at what he does.
Yep.
The other Flora, the other kid, is she was actually in a genre movie that you've already mentioned once in this episode. Do you recall?
She was in a genre movie that I've already mentioned. She was in wait, I've got her in my notes. Hold on. She was in Hell House.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pamela Franklin. She was in The Legend of Hell House with Roddy McDowall, the adaptation of Richard Matheson's Hell House novel.
Right.
So great genre ties to this cast, as far as I'm concerned. And then that's really all I have on cast. I mean, there's like I said, not a lot of controversy.
That basically is the cast, except for, again, Miss Jessup or Jessel, who is just in like 3 scenes.
Right.
And, no
and
dialogue.
Someone named Anna, who must have been the cook.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I have some awards that this movie was nominated for. It actually won a few. They're not major awards, but then again, when we're dealing with genre, we don't get major award nominations that often. BAFTA nominated it for Best British Film. It did not win. The Cannes Film Festival nominated Jack Clayton for director in 1962, which is good. The Directors Guild nominated him as well. However, these two it won. It won an Edgar Allan Poe Award for Best Motion Picture, and it went to Capote and Archibald for the script.
Good.
And then the National Board of Reviews National Board of Review, USA, whatever that is, it won Best Director, and it was in the top 10 films of the year.
Yeah.
So, which I agree with all of that. I mean, I think this is a well-crafted movie.
Yeah, I wish it had gotten more even, just because.
Actually, the Writers Guild nominated it too. So Capote and Archibald got nominated for that too. They did not win.
Okay.
So,
that's good.
Any other trivia bits or anything you want to talk about before we move on to keys?
I have
celebrity trivia.
The only thing I have in my
the
only thing I have in my trivia notes is roses abound in this story. So you see roses a lot in this movie. She's always clipping the roses, or they're going to the rose garden.
She touches them in the beginning and the petals fall off.
Petals fall off. So roses, which is, again, that ambiguity, because roses are usually between lovers kind of thing.
Or on a funeral wreath.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow. So, I had not even put that together. That's awesome.
So I thought that was very interesting that he uses that subliminal in there a lot. He also uses, I thought it was unique that costuming wise, Miss Geddes goes from whites and light colors to the last 2 scenes she's in black. So is that saying subconsciously to all of us, that her spirit or her character is darkening, that she's losing her mind, that things are getting worse, that all of that I thought was really clever from a production standpoint. So
very cool.
That was mine.
I just as far as trivia, I just have what others thought of this movie, other famous people thought of this movie.
Yeah.
3. 1, Francis Truffaut regarded this as the best British movie since Alfred Hitchcock left for America.
Perfect. I would agree.
So I guess film went downhill when Alfred came over the pond.
He ruined us by leaving.
I mean, I love my Hammer films, but this one is a little bit elevated as far as that's concerned. Also, in an article in USA Today in 2011, Guillermo del Toro chose this as one of his 6 favorite films.
Okay.
And that explains humongous amounts of why we like him so much, because, he's got a respect for the art. And then lastly, Joe Dante has cited that this is his favorite movie too. Another horror movie director.
Another horror director. Yeah. I can, why would they not? I found it really scary. I found it one of the better horror movies we have done, and just so well done. And I will say for modern audiences, it is a slower paced movie. It is not fastly edited, which allows the actors and the actresses to do better, in my opinion. So you have longer shots where you're having almost like entire theater scenes of these people, or you have choreoed scenes where the camera's going around her while she's spinning around with the candelabra going down the hall. All that's all choreographed as one sequence kind of thing, rather than quick shots that are jump scary shots. So I liked that too.
Yeah. Before we get into keys, I want to put a little note in there that there are over 30 adaptations of Henry James' Turn of the Screw.
Really?
If you go into IMDb, you can look at a list of 30 movies. If you want to read a little further, there's another 20 adaptations for television. So there have been like at least 50 adaptations of this story.
Wow. Okay.
We did a thing on the Thing not long ago, a podcast, like a little short on the Thing, where I was saying it was the story that would never die. Well, I think this may be the story that would never die.
Probably, yeah.
And just to let you folks out there know, we're not going to talk about all those as keys. I just mentioned them though.
Number one. No, just kidding. Counting down from 50. Interesting. I mean, I can see it just because people can, in just, I'm sure they'll come up in keys, but some of the adaptations that have been made, the things they change and alter keep it fresh or different or newer or better for, quote, the generation.
Or reinvented.
So reinvented. Yeah. Might be a way of doing it. Yes.
For a modern audience.
Yeah, I could see that.
So do you want to take on the elephant?
Which elephant are you talking about? Are we talking about our favorite Netflix series?
I think we are. It's not our favorite, maybe, but it is a very good one.
This is what Mike Flanagan. Those of you who have listened to us before know we both idolize Mike Flanagan and what he's done for horror in general, but especially with the Netflix series, The Haunting of Hill House, and then the sequel, quote, to that, so to speak, which was The Haunting of Bly Manor, where he took this story, but along with other Henry James short stories, and kind of melded them all together. And I thought he did it brilliantly. I think the thing that he did that worked was giving character to Jessel and Peter, because we saw their backstories and we saw the tragedy, and it made it feel even worse when we realized that, yes, they literally were possessing these children. And not only that, his big bringer at the end, his big change was, and we're going to keep them too. We're not letting them come back. There will never be a Miles and a Flora. It's going to be us in their bodies. And it was like, what? I mean, that was brilliant. I loved that. I can't say, well, we've done it already. I think we didn't we do it as a special Patreon episode?
I think we did it as a bonus episode. I can't imagine we didn't, because we were too hyped about it.
If you are listening to us or watching us and like The Innocents, then definitely look up The Haunting of Bly Manor. It's on Netflix, and it is a multi-part series that is brilliant. Brilliant.
And I think we have a bonus episode maybe on Patreon for it. I don't think, I'm pretty sure it was a bonus episode. We did not cover it as a regular episode.
I mean, I cannot say, hey, that is the best adaptation of this novel, because I think he changes too much for it to be an accurate, quote, adaptation. I think this is much. Yeah, by far it's my favorite.
It's my favorite too. And I mean, the thing he does, he expands whatever it is you say about what good movies do, they are good sequels and reboots do, is they expand the story and make it new and fresh again. And what he does is, I mean, all of a sudden the cook is a major character, and you love the guy that plays the cook.
Oh my gosh.
The house mistress, or whatever, she's the house manager, I guess you'd call her. The African-American lady. She's not the governess, but she kind of oversees the house. She's fantastic. I mean, all the side characters are great in the Mike Flanagan version of the story. But what I love, as far as I guess when I'm saying elephant in the room, is when I started watching this, I was like, oh, David's going to shit his pants. David is going to shit his pants. I said, he has lifted direct shots from this movie.
Oh my gosh.
The shot across the water with Mrs. Jessel standing out there, and the shot of Peter Quint in the window. I'm like, Mike Flanagan loves movies. He lifts from the beautiful ones because he knows how powerful they are.
Even her in the garden, and they have that upper high shot of her in the garden, and she looks up and it cuts and she sees the figure on the battlement.
Up on the
kind of
balustrade or whatever you call it.
Yeah. I went, yes.
Yeah, awesome stuff. I mean, the whole time I was watching it, I was like, I wonder if David even knew that this was the same thing, if he's just going into this blind.
I knew Turning of the Screws, so I knew that we had done Bly Manor, so I knew that. But like we said, even the opening scene is great. And when Perfetti and E.T. Elliot from E.T. When they did their scene, it had that same kind of quality to it. But I loved having him come back. I love the whole tie-in to the curse of the house itself. And the fact that that's how they could become possessed was because of her and her, I guess, giving them the ghost ability or whatever, or killing them, sort of thing.
Even little things like when she arrives, she says, "No, don't drive up. I want to walk.
I want to walk."
That's in the series too. Yes. I was like, yes, this is great. This is great.
Yeah, so we cannot. I mean, a definite key to the innocence is definitely The Haunting of Bly Manor.
Yeah, I mean, it's the elephant of keys for sure.
Yeah.
Of the 30 adaptations that I mentioned earlier, I would mention one just because I found it interesting, and it's been a long time since I've seen it, so I can't remember how good it is. But there's a movie called The Nightcomers, and it stars Marlon Brando. That's why I have seen it, because I idolize Brando.
Okay.
And it is sort of a prequel where he plays Peter Quint having an affair with Mrs. Jessel, and the kids are around. But it's like what happened before this story.
Okay.
So I did want to mention that one. So that's a different take on it, so to speak.
I vaguely remember there was a Nicole Kidman version.
Yes, it's called The Others.
The Others.
I forgot about that one.
Which I thought was, it's in my notes as a key. Several of those have just, references. I've also got look up the 2021 version from Norway. So there was a version in 2021 from Norway that I haven't seen it all, but I've got it in my notes to look it up. So definitely the latest, I guess, version.
When you go on IMDb and you type it in and then hit enter, and then scroll down to like the bottom of like 10 or so, there's a little link that says see all matches or see exact matches or something like that. If you click on that, that's when it opens that list of like 50 that I told you about. So I bet you could find it there.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Let's see, what else do I have key wise? Of course, the original novella. I was
going to say that's the other elephant right there, is that it was classic literature before it became a film.
So classic. And to me, I always group it in the same as like The Lottery. It's that early horror told well kind of thing.
See, I wouldn't group it there at all, because Shirley Jackson to me is more of a modern writer. Henry James has always, coming from an English major perspective, he's kind of stuffy. He's an American that went to live in England, so he wants to be British. And his stuff is very heavy. I mean, not heavy, but like thick and cumbersome. When you're reading it, it's a little difficult to read. So, I mean, they did write two of the best haunted house books there are, but Shirley Jackson wrote like Richard Matheson in the 60s, the 50s and 60s, whereas he was more the turn of the century, Victorian. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. Makes sense.
That's my opinion. I didn't mean to say, no, you're wrong.
But, no, you're the English major, so you tell me. Yeah.
I mean, that's just my opinion because I've read Jackson and I've read Henry James, and I would much rather pick up a Shirley Jackson novel than a Henry James novel any day.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Makes sense. I've got also some of the ones we talked about. Of course, there's Keys to Legend of Hell House, The Haunting. I've got another one that supposedly came out in 2020. I haven't seen, called The Turning. And it supposedly is another good adaptation. But one that got me is, and I'll tell you why it's my key, I guess, is Woman in Black, the show, the play, and then turned into, a couple of different film adaptations of it. But I think the last one was with Daniel Radcliffe.
It's the Woman in Black or the Lady in Black? It's the Woman in Black, isn't it?
I think it's Woman in Black.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
It might be Lady in Black. I hope it's not Lady in Black. Might be.
I can't remember. I get it confused.
I'm pretty sure it's Woman in Black is the play version, which I've read. I've wanted to mount a couple of times and never been able to. It's a really cool story. But again, a ghost story, haunted house type thing where they are seeing this, brief glimpses of this ghostly woman. So that's the key that I get out of this, when they would see Miss Jessel across the pond or whatever. It's that kind of
that title always, it's been a minute since I saw that Daniel Radcliffe movie, but that title pops into my head whenever I see her out in the water in black. It's just like, oh, okay. That may be where they lifted this from.
And again, it was a tragic story of, a ghost haunting a place sort of thing. I don't think we get so much tragedy from the backstory in this or in the original source material. We get the tragedy in her. Could she be going crazy? And is this all pretension on her part sort of thing, or delusion on her part? As opposed to in the like Bly Manor or in Woman in Black and all those, the backstories are, the ghost stories are horrible and awful. And that's why they're kind of ghosts and roam to, haunt, because they're either evil people who have done bad things or died in a very, horrible way.
Right.
Sort of thing.
It's almost ironic, and I don't want to digress too much, that I talked about The Invisible Man before this, because it's the exact same plot device, is that they think she's crazy, and they think Deborah Kerr is crazy in this movie. They don't believe her, and they don't believe Elizabeth Moss in The Invisible Man because, her husband's dead. How could he be coming after her? And she can't see him, that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only other keys I have, other than, like I said, countless adaptations, are things I have lifted from IMDb. I did not know this, but apparently in the movie The Ring, I think it's the Naomi Watts version.
Yeah.
There's muffled singing on the video, and it's lifted from an audio track on this movie. I guess the beginning in the black. Her singing
Willie Way song or whatever, which is also in Bly Manor, by the way. That song is in the movie, in the series.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's her singing it. The modern actress singing it.
Yes.
Yeah. So apparently some audio was lifted for The Ring. Apparently Trent Reznor was so in love with the cinematography of this movie that it was used for a video they did for Nine Inch Nails called The Perfect Drug.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not a big Nine Inch Nails fan, so I couldn't tell you.
I love Perfect Drug. That works.
Apparently, it was the cinematography was imitated for that video.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Said.
Yep.
So, another musician that's very popular right now because of Stranger Things, Kate Bush, said that she wrote a song called "The Infant Kiss," which was inspired by this movie.
That would make sense. I'm sure that final scene, the scene in the bedroom, but also the final scene, were pretty controversial when this movie came out in 1961.
Yeah.
I'm sure that led to some controversy.
Did you have any more?
I have two final keys. One is The Shining, because the ambiguity they have up until the last like 15 minutes. There's a lot of ambiguity to, is this delusion or is this real? Are these ghosts really here, or is our protagonist seeing things, kind of thing? And I think he does that really well in The Shining, as well as, like in this movie. And then my last one was, it seems like, and I have it in my notes as, was 20th Century Fox prompted to do this by Hammer, Psycho, Haunted Hill, or that sort of, those kind of movies that were coming out? I don't know if that's factual or not.
Say that again. Was Psycho what?
Was 20th Century prompted to, do this movie because of Hammer's success in England and Freddie Francis and all that, and or Psycho or House on Haunted Hill, or those older black and white ghost stories?
It's funny that you mentioned that. I don't know about the Psycho connection. And this is clearly...
Well, Psycho was 62 though, right?
No, it was 60.
Okay, so it was the year before. So that's why I'm saying 20th Century Fox go, wow, we need to get on this horror bandwagon.
Well, and this was a Fox movie, but it was filmed in England, wasn't it? It definitely looks like England.
I'm pretty sure it was filmed in England, yes.
Yeah. But funny that you mentioned that about Hammer, because I've got a note that Jack Clayton went to great pains to distance this movie from Hammer horror movies, which were enjoying very good success at the time. Because he didn't want to be lumped in there, because he was a very unique director. Like I said, he didn't do major movies, but all his movies are very well respected and memorable.
Yep. Yes, this was actually filmed exclusively in England.
Okay.
Sheffield Park Garden, Dane Hill, Uckfield, and East Sussex in England.
Yeah. But to get back on that subject, if you take the horror out of it and attack the black and white element, where did that come from? Because I read that this was the first movie shot in CinemaScope to be allowed, that they be shot in black and white. And then they decided going forward that it would be okay to do that. They really liked what it looked like.
Yeah,
apparently. And at first they didn't want to do that because it was going to be shot in CinemaScope. It should be in color, blah, 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 whatever.
And culturally, that probably should be a key that we add, is that it was the first CinemaScope black and white, essentially, because that the struggle with that was what Francis had to deal with, which was you have to have more lighting if you're doing it in black and white.
So get your sunglasses, Deb.
Get your sunglasses out. Get this ready. I just have that in my keys as, did that influence, whether it's the studio saying, hey, we need to do a good black and white horror because Psycho was so popular or whatever, or was it, something cultural that they said they had to get on the bandwagon?
Yeah, and The Haunting didn't come out till 63, I'm pretty sure. So you had Psycho in 60, this in 61, and The Haunting in 63. And then by the end of the decade, you had Baby Jane, Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, and all the Aldrich movies that were, B movie knockoffs. Yeah. They were in black and white too.
And, we can't really say, pass keys without saying, basically every haunted house movie since then. Because there've been several, even down to, what's the one that I keep remembering from television that you mentioned? Burnt Offerings?
No, Burnt Offerings is not television. The reason you think it is because Dan Curtis directed it.
Oh, okay.
It was a theatrical release. I saw that movie in a theater.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't seen that forever.
Burnt Offerings is great. And the one I always mention that is a TV movie is called The House That Never Died with Barbara Stanwyck.
Yeah, Barbara Stanwyck. I remember
which would be a great key to this as well. I should put those down, actually.
Yeah, so those, those haunted house movies, even down to, Amityville. Amityville was popular because they were saying, our house is possessed, kind of thing. Poltergeist, same thing. So it led to this... But what they lack is that ambiguity. All of those tend to be too straightforward of, I got ghosts in my house. Whereas this is, do you have ghosts in your house?
Get out.
Get out. I love it here. Get out. Too bad we can't stay.
The last key that I have is what I would call a familial casting key.
Mm-hmm. Familial casting key.
Well, it has to do with the Redgrave family. However, all right, Megs Jenkins, who played Mrs. Gross in Turn of the Screw, she reprised her role. Excuse me. She played Mrs. Gross in this movie. Then she reprised this role in Turn of the Screw 1974, whichever version that was, with Michael Redgrave's daughter, Lynn Redgrave, playing the governess.
Okay.
So she was in another version with another Redgrave. However, two of Michael Redgrave's kids and one of his grandchildren later appeared in other adaptations of this story. So when you have this many adaptations, your family ends up in them too.
Yes. Okay.
Lynn Redgrave played the governess, Miss Cubberley, in the one I just mentioned from 1974. His son, Corin Redgrave, played the professor in Turn of the Screw in 2009. And then his granddaughter, Jolie Richardson, played Darla Mandel in The Turning in 2020.
Wow.
And that's the one you mentioned, isn't it?
Yep. The Turning. Yeah.
The Turning. So the Redgraves have an attachment to this movie as well. You know what? They're ghosts now, and they're out there haunting.
That's it. They're haunting this story. Yes.
Except I think Lynn Redgrave may still be alive.
I have a pseudo weird key that might be I just kind of divined from IMDb, which is, you had mentioned the cast, and then you said Isla or Isla Cameron, who played Anna. And neither one of us really remember that or remember her. She is also credited as the voice of the little girl at the beginning singing the song.
I was just about to say she sang that song. That's hilarious.
So maybe they just gave her a name of Anna, for credits, but she actually sings the Oh Willow Whaley song from the credits. So there you go.
Fascinating.
I just thank you so much for picking this one, because I never would have probably, nor would I have jumped on watching it if I had even seen a little description. It said, I like Turn the Screw, but I would have gone, don't know, maybe not.
It's funny. I was going to proceed this episode with that, and we've talked so much because our genre weeks went on so long.
Yeah.
But I love doing this show with you, because I get to revisit all of these movies, and the science fiction ones I would have never visited if it weren't for you. But and we cover the schlock. We love covering bad movies too. But when I see a movie like this and I'm watching it going, oh my God, I wish I was in the same room with him, right?
Yeah, I do the same thing. We do need to schedule, and certain people have written to us and said, we need to look at maybe doing a live react, to a movie, and pick one and just put it on and just do a live react to it.
Yeah.
We'll see if copyright will ever let us do that. So,
and it's movies like this though that make me especially glad to do it. I love doing the fun stuff too, but when you grab a gem like this one that no one knows about probably in this day and age, it needs to be talked about. So
definitely. So all of you out there listening, thank you for listening to us. And wow, was this a long one for you? But we're glad you did. If, again, as we said at the beginning, if you like what you heard today or didn't like what you heard today, you can find us on Podcast of Choice. You can also find us on johnnyhasthekeys.com. You can please give us a review or rate us a star, a few stars, 19 stars, whatever. And also to ring the bell, subscribe, so you can find out if you really like what you hear and want to hear more of us just drone on about other stuff. We do have a Patreon page, and we have some special other events there, including Star Trek The Original Series, a series on that, and also on X-Files, both two series that we both adore and we talk about a lot. Tim, until next time, I guess we'll have to just go into the haunted house and avoid the storms. Kind of thing.
Or monsters from outer space.
Monsters from outer space next time. We'll probably be, this whole month, horror. We're going to be horror.
So monsters from outer space.
Oh, that's right. Next week is monsters. Okay, those of you listening, next week is monsters from outer space, but scary monsters. All right. See you, man.
All right, bye.
Bye.
You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.